There's 2 episodes of From left, and now that we have time travel, I think I may have solved the mystery of the show. So guys, hit the subscribe button if you want to find out what the lady in the kimono's evil plans are, and just how exactly does time travel work in this universe. In season 3, episode 8 of From, when Julie throws the rope down to Boyd, she confirmed time travel in the From universe. Not only did she confirm time travel, but Julie also created something we call a bootstrap paradox. A bootstrap paradox is a kind of paradox in which information or a person is sent back in time and creates an infinite loop where the person or object has no observable beginning. In other words, it acts as though there's no beginning and no end, like a closed time loop. Which then suggests in the universe of From, time is not linear, but time is a circle. Julie from season 3 threw the rope down to Boyd, who climbed out of the hole in season 2. Think about it. Because Boyd was able to climb out of the hole, he was able to save Julie, and Julie was able to go on and send the rope down to Boyd. If Boyd never rescues Julie in season 2, Julie cannot throw the rope down in order for Boyd to climb out of the hole to save her in the first place. And that's where the causal loop comes from. Where does it begin? Where does it end? Is it Julie throwing the rope down to Boyd or Boyd rescuing Julie? Neither of them can happen without the other. And now that starts to tie into everything else that's been going on in From. Jade said it best in episode 7 when he talked about predestination. Everything that was meant to happen will happen because it's a closed time loop. And the bottle trees are the key. By virtue of the bottle tree transporting people from one place to another, teleportation, I should have put 2 and 2 together and figured out time travel was coming up next. I did have a hint, especially with the fact that the bottle trees has dates in it, which I think confirms the theory that those dates are actually points in time, which makes you start to wonder who's keeping track of all of these. And I'm starting to think that Jade is the one that put the numbers in the bottle tree, because if we look at the trailer for episode 9, we see what looks like Jade creating a bottle tree himself. And it starts to make sense because he's the one who has the most understanding of what's going on. The years mimic each other and there's a pattern going on, repeating itself over and over again. And it reminds me of one of my favorite shows on Netflix called Dark. The show Dark focuses mainly around a closed time loop, 3 time loops specifically, and if you find a way to break the time loop, you can free yourselves. And the way that From is shaping out, it seems like they're all trapped repeating the same patterns over and over again. Even if it's not in their same bodies, I do think some characters get reincarnated, such as Miranda, Tabitha, Jade, Christopher. Specifically with Jade, he seems to have had the most visions of different people during different time periods. I keep thinking about the Civil War soldiers specifically, as well as the guy that he saw in the settlement. Both of them clearly aren't from this time period. And in episode 8, Henry makes it a point to talk to Jade about his research, showing that he's getting ever so closer. It's only a matter of time before Jade puts 2 and 2 together. Another thing that's really interesting in the trailer is the fact that Victor is seen trying to cut down one of these trees, only to be stopped by the boy in white, who then starts walking away. So maybe Victor ends up following him. But the trees were created by the Ankui kids as a way for someone to save them. So if Victor is cutting one of them down, it may be messing with the space-time continuum of the show, which could add to why so much disasters happen. It could mess up what the kids are trying, which is why no one has been able to save them thus far. And if the kids can transfer their hope into the roots of the trees to create the faraway trees, it makes you wonder, what exactly is Fromsville? I saw this really cool theory online, and I think I'm rolling with it. And that theory is that this is a fairy trap, or a quote-unquote fae trap. Because the boy in white says something interesting. He said that the answers to the end are at the beginning. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going back to the very first episode of From, because that's where my mind went, the beginning of everything. The opening song is by the Pixies, a fairy reference. One of the first interactions we have between Julie and Ethan is them discussing a fairy tale about the Lake of Tears, which is a story about fairies. I could spend a whole video really breaking down fairies and their mythology, but all that to say, in ancient Celtic mythology, fairies lure kids into their domain and end up eating them, which is why they keep saying save the kids. The kids were betrayed by someone they trusted, and that person allowed the fairies to murder them in the dark. And the reason that the dark plays such a key role is because there are various types of fairies. We're focusing mainly on these type of fairies called the unsilly fairies. These fairies are changelings, a sort of creature that can transform their form to look like humans or monsters, kind of like how the creatures already do in From. What made me really think that they might be these unsilly fairies is the fact that the unsilly fairies hide during the daytime and come out at night. Does that sound familiar to anybody? There's a bunch of other key fairy symbols throughout the show. Children dressed in white, aka the boy in white. Abby back in season 2 told Boyd that the town feeds on hope. At first, we thought it was the town playing tricks on Boyd, but now that time travel is a thing, that could have really been Abby, especially since it was in the dungeon that Julie time traveled. So Boyd could have been speaking to his wife in the past. And with the loop continuing, it brings us straight to Fatima. If it's a circle and things are repeating themselves, then whatever Fatima is giving birth to is a fairy. It's a creature of this town. And that's why the Kimono Lady wants her. The Kimono Lady made Elgin bring Fatima into the root cellar. Also in the trailer, we see one of the Ankui kids calling Julie and Tabitha, having them follow her. I think she's going to lead them to the root cellar. What I'm thinking is the Ankui kids and whatever Fatima's about to give birth to and the lady in the kimono are diametrically opposed to one another. And that's going to cause a big clash between the two ideologies of Frumsville. The evil fairies of Frumsville versus the boy in white and the Ankui kids. But guys, there's one thing we can't really forget about, and that's the creature at the settlement. In the trailer, we see Jim back at the settlement, and every time we get new information about the creature or whatever's going on in the settlement, Jim is always there. In the first episode of the season, again, going back to the beginning, Jim was there. In episode 7, when Tabitha and Jade go back to the settlement, right before they got there, the town folk were telling Jim about how whatever was rampaging at night is getting louder and rowdier. I've been saying this for the past few videos now, but I'm thinking a massacre is coming on, and it's just repeating the same cycle that happened when Victor was a child. What I'm really curious about, however, is how many times has this happened, and will the show continue going down the time loop, or will they break the time loop? So far, while we're uncovering things little by little, the characters in the show are way behind, and with this new evil being birthed from Fatima and with whatever's going on in the settlement, I don't think they're going to solve what's happening in time, and they may just be part of a massacre. And then what happens next? Does it start all over again? Does Tabitha get reincarnated into somebody else? Do the patterns repeat? And if you're able to time travel, could they use that to escape? There's so many different places the show can go, and I don't know exactly how the time travel in this show works. I just know that it's a closed time loop and things are repeating themselves over and over with slight different variations. Miranda being Tabitha and the numbers on the bottle tree being reflective and flipped around shows that maybe, just maybe, things will be different this time. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.